All right, so as mentioned earlier, my name is Crystal and my talk tonight will be about saving yourself some time using prompt engineering and plugins for the API. Here we go. So has been a very bad lately, especially as more people and the AI models overall, they're being used in a wide range of industries. From financial predictions, we've got the self-driving vehicles. They can do medical diagnosis now. So there was one program I was working on for a while to help people kind of like figure out what kind of autoimmune disease that they have. But now there's one out there because of AI. And everything with AI seems to be going incredibly fast. And then hide. No problem. I am my dad really got me into it, and it was something that I kept doing for a while. Overall, though, I spent a majority of my life within kitchens and cooking. But even then, I would find myself automating tasks within that, like whether it came down to making the schedules, when it came down to food ordering, or even when it came down to the customer or the comments that we would get, the reviews. There we go. No problem. Oh, and if it helps, for the longest time, I actually used .NET as my framework, and now I am Laravel. So I can tell you that GPT is not very friendly to Laravel. It is very mean. All right. So one thing that we have to remember is that AI overall is advanced algorithms. They have been around for years, and we often utilize them every day without even thinking about it. Down to the, hey, we see that you're checking out now, but these are very similar to what you're buying or what you have bought in the past. That is a very similar model to ChatGPT now, because it's using highly predictive algorithms to determine what you would like, along with the red squiggles that we would get in our, been using it all day and I can't even remember the word, IDE. So products like JetBrains, or even the built-in interpreters have utilized some form of AI. And then we get the random ads from, or whether it's on YouTube or any site that you go to, you've never looked it up, but there just happens to be somebody who is living right next to you, who is around your age, who looks at the same stuff that you do typically, and they're now trying to buy fish shoes. So now you're getting that ad. The cool thing about when it comes down to interacting with the AI models now is that you can pretty much do it with any language. It may take a couple of months, or it also depends on its popularity with how fast that you would be able to do it, unless you want to build the whole thing, the whole translator yourself. That's not what I want to do, but if we were to tell ChatGPT, for example, to build a full-scale one language now. And so we can do it in the language that we feel comfortable programming in, or just plain English, or whatever native language you have. The one thing that I really like about ChatGPT and what I have been using it for is automating a lot of my text-based responsibilities. Yes. Yes. So you wouldn't even put feel in there. You would say, don't ask it to do it. So if you ever make a prompt, don't ask GPT to help you with it. You tell it to do it. And you would remove the feel word. Just tell it that you want it to be slightly rustic. Use descriptive language to emphasize how much, I guess, I can't think of the word right now. I'm sorry, I've been up for like 2 days. So I'm sorry. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah, because even rustic, you know, exactly. Because when I think of rustic, I think of like the farm type decoration type stuff. I could see someone else, if they're not too familiar with the word, thinking of rust, make it more orangey, brown UI. And so you really have to still define what you want and be very explicit on what you want. Another example too is if you go into ChatGPT right now, you can try it out with 2 different prompts where one, tell it that you felt or you feel uncomfortable about some news that you received today, and you would like to find ways to make yourself feel better, versus telling it, I need this right now, and not as an example. The first one, it will give you, I think it was 15% more text, which is going to eat up your tokens. And the second one will give you exactly what you wanted with no filler. So the good thing is, if you like making AI generated images, that is also a very direct language that you have to use with those models. And you can actually implement that to GPT very nicely. They even have their own model as well, the AI generated model. I can't think of it right now. Is it? Yeah. But overall, GPT thrives off of direct goals. If you don't supply what you want, then it will go off on its own every time. So we have to think like programmers. When it comes down to starting an application, the first thing we do is get the requirements. And that is what you have to do with GPT in order to control it. Try to think of, how can you break down your goal of what you want it to do? Make it into smaller segments that are more manageable for it. And again, just be as direct as possible with nothing that can be left up for interpretation. Also, one thing that I find really cool about GPT is that you can also you can put in your own commands, even into ChatGPT. So say, for example, that you are telling it that you want it to be your business partner, or it is your business partner, excuse me. But you give it rules. Rule 1, you're never to criticize me and what I'm doing. Rule 2, you will always get back to me quickly. Rule 3, you will think about each thing that I ask you step by step. Step by step is a huge key when using it. It gives it time, it slows it down, because I'm sure, as you notice, like GPT-3, extremely fast. It'll pump that stuff out. But if you tell it to go through everything step by step, it slows down and it will actually think about those things longer. Mm-hmm. So for that, it really depends. I do go back normally to the same one and I build off of it. But at a certain point, they have, GPT is known for having memory issues. And so after so many prompts, it will start forgetting what you've told it. So unless you can host your own database for it, which will be extremely large, that's what we have right now. There is other plugins that are being developed right now to help with its memory. And they've been doing a pretty good job, but it's also one of the reasons I don't have a live demo for you guys today. So all right, so GPT API. Finally, and I was so happy when I finally got it done. But essentially, you just give it your prompt. In this case, you give it a title of an article that you're writing, and it will go ahead and produce or generate that article for you. GPT API with their documentation, lots and lots of commands. And if you go onto GitHub, compared to other things that I've seen, there are very little resources that you can pull from, in my opinion, especially when it comes down to Laravel. Either they don't like to show it, or there's not that many there. But the nice thing is that through OpenAI's documentation, they do have a section that references all of the community repositories, and it lists pretty much all the languages there. So you can find one, and then they're all open source, so you could jump in, help out as well. And yeah. Now, Eric mentioned AutoGPT earlier, and this is one of the plugins. This is another live run that I was doing earlier, which AutoGPT is an experimental open source project that loves throwing plugins at the GPT API. So they basically have a more childish version of Jarvis right now. They have started implementing it, and you can actually talk to it now with your own voice, and it can respond back to you with the voice, and you can have a communication with it for as long as you want. I use AutoGPT for creating grocery lists and to implement or for me that will go ahead and list out all the ingredients that I have in the house. And then I will tell it, hey, make me a recipe with all the stuff that you just gathered from this document, which it will do. It will provide some really good recipes too. I like that one, at least. And it will also remove those things for you too. So if you go grocery shopping based off the list that it gave you to go pick up, and you come back and you decided, I don't want salsa today, you tell it that you didn't pick up the salsa, it will remove it from the ingredients list or the grocery list in general, and then it won't suggest it again unless a recipe that you're interested in comes up. And when that recipe comes up, you tell it basically to make you a grocery list, and it will. And it's nice too, because you can also tell it the size, like the family size that you would want to, or how many people to feed. Or if this is something that you would like to be frozen, you know, stay good. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. So one of the downsides about AutoGPT, but it's really cool, but it's also really scary. It can search the internet, so you're not limited by the 2021 knowledge block anymore. And it takes the long way sometimes to do that, and it will eat up your tokens as well. But if you engage the God mode with it, it will continuously run until you turn it off. And so, like he mentioned earlier, he left it running for an hour. You can have it running for days. I've seen some really cool projects that were developed from it. And I've also seen some really horrific things as well that came from it. Mostly they're bank statements. So in order to implement, or if you're interested in using AutoGPT, I really like it as a tool overall. Oh, both of these are tools. All you have to do is follow these steps, which there's a lot, I'm sorry. And again, just like with OpenAI's documentation, you really want to go through AutoGPT's documentation, because you can easily get lost with everything that they offer, or since it is also Python based, it can also screw up randomly in some places. Like the project I was mentioning earlier, the live demonstration that I don't have for you guys. As I was telling them, it worked fine for me 2 weeks ago. And then last week it did not want to work anymore. And then they said that they were going to be working on it this week. So it's not fixed. Oh, sorry, I moved away from the mic. Yeah. So with ChatGPT, if you're using the GPT API in your own application, of course, you can pretty much tell it to do whatever you want it to do at that time. You can pretty much replicate AutoGPT or borrow ideas from them and use them yourself. So you can pretty much shape it to what you need it to do. You can have it specially catered to you. But if you go through like ChatGPT alone onto the browser, it will come, or it will run into that issue where it will completely forget the conversation at some point. So it depends on how long you want to use it for in order to achieve that. And that's it. Oh, you go broke by messing with the wrong settings within AutoGPT, like playing with Cosmos. And if you don't tell it a specific token limit, or if you decide that you want it to be or you want it to improv everything, it's just going to throw at you really lengthy responses. And GPT has a max, I think it's 8,000 token limit originally, the 3.5. So you can hit that pretty quickly. Yes. I think it's, what is it? Yeah, it's like, I want to say every 25 characters is 1 token. So if you're asking it to write you a book, be cautious with how many words it's going to give you. And because normally they do say that the token usage is based off of the words, but depending on the word that you use, it'll actually break it up into multiple tokens. So the more complicated it is for it to understand, the more tokens it will cost. Yes. If you're just using ChatGPT straight up, like in their browser with OpenAI's browser, you are fine. If you go to the playground, you'll get charged through your API. But if you just use ChatGPT, you can use it for as long as you like, and there's not going to be any issue aside from the memory problem. Oh, and ChatGPT, they actually placed their temperature at 0.7. So that's why it tends to hallucinate after a while as well, because it's having trouble with the memory now, and it's also trying to mimic you more. And so it starts going off on in its own little world. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Actually, it does. It's pretty interesting. I really like using it for recipes overall. It, you know, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I also work a pseudo part-time job, really a full-time job, and I have my own business as well. So my time is limited all the time. It sucks. I'm tired. But ChatGPT overall, by utilizing it that way, with how good it can actually modify those recipes to fit those ingredients and to take into account on how to prepare them, because it's such a change, it saved a lot of time for me. I think for just the business aspect and for the recipe aspect, well, just for the business aspect, I know it's saved me at least 16 hours from what I clocked within like a month, which 16 hours is a lot within a month. As for the recipes, it's nice not having to think about, well, what am I going to make tonight? Or what am I hungry for? Or, you know, just be stuck in that food craving limbo, you know, and it can just give you a direct answer and help you build that recipe based off of what you have in the home, like in your house. Does that answer your question? Okay. Sorry. All right. That's it. That's all I have. So the tokens, it really depends. It's something that I'm still fiddling around with.